Chapter 5. Mutin. Dr Buteyko did not occupy his boss's office for long. The cuts on his face began to heal, and the bruising hurt less, helped considerably by the doctor's practice of the volitional elimination of deep breathing. Buteyko returned to work, and the joy of his co-workers knew no bounds. The doctor's prediction of his imminent death had only partly come true. He was alive, and would continue his work. Only Andrei Mutin did not rejoice. He forced a smile onto his flabby, pock-marked face when Buteyko cheerfully strode into the office, but he wasn't happy at all. The unsuccessful accident had dealt his career a substantial blow. "Well, you don't appear to have been badly hurt," Professor Pomyekin had acerbically remarked during that fateful night after the accident when they were alone. The boss's cold and disdainful expression was more eloquent than words. "You didn't manage to poison our enemy or smash his head in an accident. You are incompetent, young man." Seeing Buteyko heading directly for his beloved calibrated ballistocardiograph, Mutin solicitously bent over the equipment on the other side of their renowned complexator and industriously tightened a slightly loose screw. "That's it, Andrei. Work hard," said Buteyko, half-jokingly from the other side of the complexator's couch. "Keep busy as a bee." The healing cuts didn't diminish the unusual attractiveness of the doctor's face. "I just do my duty, Dr Buteyko, that's all," said Mutin, attempting to use the same jocular tone as his boss. But he could feel how his pitiful smile stretched artificially across his face, and he hurried out of the room, supposedly to fetch an urgently required instrument. Shutting himself in the toilet, he lit up and began to take deep gulps of strong, filterless cigarettes that burnt his throat. He was in a fine pickle. He could no longer expect patronage from Pomyekin, and Buteyko, he flicked ash onto the graffiti-covered windowsill. Buteyko now appeared to know about Mutin's schemes, and, it would seem, had had a fairly good idea all along. The reek of the chlorine bleach made Mutin grimace. The pair of them were such geniuses. Pomyekin cut patients open left, right, and centre, and dreamt of nothing less than a Nobel Prize. Buteyko would make patients suck in carbon dioxide until they almost turned blue and wanted to share Hippocrates' podium. Mutin, meanwhile, was stuck in the middle and had to pretend to worship both of them. He spat on the floor and wiped the spittle across the dirty tiles with his foot. It was clear that Buteyko wasn't taken in by his deception. The man could predict the future, for heaven's sake. The doctor had foreseen an attempt on his life. Perhaps he could even read thoughts at a distance, and Pomyekin would only be happy if Andrei slit the doctor's throat in a dark stairwell, thus turning off the carbon dioxide valve that posed such a threat to the professor. The stub of the cigarette burnt Mutin's fingers, and he threw it away. They both treated him like dirt, so why had he got mixed up with their intrigues? Because he wanted a PhD and a decent career, and, at the end of the day, for money, which not even the socialists had managed to abolish. The smell in the lavatory was beginning to make Mutin feel sick. But what was the difference between him and them, these geniuses? Neither would turn down a Nobel Prize. And what else did a Nobel Prize mean if not widespread acclaim in your field and more titles and money, of course? He, Mutin, was no worse than either of them. Unlike the professor, he hadn't well-connected intellectual parents, and unlike Buteyko, he didn't have God-given talent. But that didn't mean he had to spend his life being grateful for crumbs from their table. Mutin's father was a carpenter who spent his pay packet on drink. "Look at me, son, and learn," his father would say, half-cut. "I've worked like a dog at that factory for so many years, and I live like a dog. Honesty doesn't pay." His father had been absolutely right. Pomyekin was hardly an honest medical practitioner. He cut open patients like lambs, but wouldn't give up his position to the talented Buteyko because he believed it was his by right. Mutin came out into the corridor and took a deep breath with relief. The doctor's presence in the clinic had clearly undermined the professor's position. No matter how righteous Pomyekin tried to appear, Mutin wouldn't allow him to play the hypocrite. They were partners in crime now. Mutin wouldn't slit the doctor's throat, he wasn't such a fool. But Pomyekin would still need him for tasks such as informing him of any seditious talk, stealing essential documents, or interfering with expensive equipment at the right time. The professor needed to shore up his position, and so he would have to make some small sacrifices.